Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host, producer, and empowerment strategist. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 keys to becoming an energy master with Christy Whitman. This is going to be a fun conversation. We had a really great time sort of up-leveling the law of attraction conversation. Christy's been teaching it for a long time. And we had a little bit of a pre-call before we recorded. So I'm hoping that today provides value in new ways for you, that some of the words, some of the points of view add another level of understanding. Before I tell you a little bit more about Christy, though, what has also come out of this conversation, and several that I've had about law of attraction with other people that are either teaching it or follow it, it's always about picking out the things that people are doing wrong. And I don't mean that to be negative. It's the things that people misunderstand or the concepts that people aren't using correctly, which is why people don't get it or don't believe it, or it's not working in the way they think it should. So I decided I'm going to do a free webinar and masterclass called The 5 Mistakes People Make with Law of Attraction. It'll be Tuesday, May 11th, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I just want to bring everybody together and just go over these 5 mistakes that people make because they're pretty easy to point out and they're huge concepts. So if that's of interest to you, please go to jjflazanes.com/LOA, Law of Attraction, LOA, jjflazanes.com. The link will be in the show notes. I'd love to have you join me on Tuesday, May 11th, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. It will be recorded, but I am going to have a special gift for those of you that come live, because of course it's always much more fun to play with you live and to be able to answer your questions. So again, it's 5 mistakes people make with law of attraction, Tuesday, May 11th, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, jjflazanes.com/LOA. Sign up and I'd love to see you there. Now, Christy Whitman is a transformational leader, celebrity coach, and law of attraction expert, as well as a 2-time New York Times bestselling author of The Art of Having It All and Taming Your Alpha Bitch. She is also the author of the international bestseller Quantum Success. Her forthcoming book, The Desire Factor, will be released April 21st, 2021. And you are going to learn more about that book today at the end of today's show and how it came to be. It's an amazing story. And there's some amazing bonuses if you pre-order the book now at thedesirefactor.com. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. And don't forget, listen to the end to get the bonuses if you are interested in buying her next book, which is The Desire Factor. And I'd love to see you at the webinar. So make sure to check all the links below in the show notes. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Welcome, everyone, to today's show. If you're listening on the podcast, we recorded a video, and I would invite you to come watch it at jjflazanes.tv. If you're here on the video, you could also click the link below to take this with you and listen on the podcast. Today is a very unique show. I have someone else who's speaking about the law of attraction, another law of attraction expert, although she's been around longer than me. So I welcome Christy Whitman to the show. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you, JJ. I'm so excited. I just even having the first conversation with you, it was so high level. So I'm just really excited to see what transpires from our conversation here.
Well, I'm excited to talk about to continue the conversation that we talked about. Christy and I did a little bit of a pre-interview to find the subject matter since, we teach similar things. And I want it to be unique and different for not only my audience, but for her audience, and to take this conversation further. And I think one of the things that I know everyone would like more of, I created a strengthening intuition course, and that's like one step in getting people into sort of practices in being able to even notice and know the difference between how intuition comes to you and how energy comes to you. But when you and I talked, we talked about like holes in your energy field, holes in your energy period that kind of disperse and trigger you and don't allow you to receive at a new level. And so today's show are the 5 keys to becoming an energy master. So I can't wait to get this started. Christy, where do we start?
Well, so we have to have the conversation. I know you've shared this with your audience in probably different language, but the concept is that we have to understand that we are energy receivers, right? We're physical beings, but we're also energy. You know this, but you're always receiving an energy. Our cells, just like when we wake up in the morning, we don't go, to the bathroom once and that's it for the day. We don't just take a sip of water and that's all we drink for the whole day, or eat something once and then we're done, right? It's something that we do on a consistent basis throughout the day to take care of ourselves. And our energy field is the same way. Most people wake up in the morning, they do their affirmations or they do their meditation. And then around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm depleted. How come my mood is shifted? I can't seem to contain that joy that I was feeling this morning because all these things happen. And it's just like that understanding that because we are human and it's not just a one-stop shop kind of thing, we need to be touching in and filling up our energy throughout the day. So it could be something like every time you go to the bathroom, just stop and fill yourself up with the energy that you're wanting to receive. It could be when you're having your meal, when you're having a drink of water, whatever it is. But know that just literally asking to receive whatever energy frequency you're wanting, joy, abundance, success, freedom, peace, whatever it is, whatever's on the menu for the day, you ask, allow yourself to get into the receiving mode, and then you get to be that container so that you're holding it for yourself and that you're not as influenced by other people, right? Their energy field, your cells are filled up with that energy. So if other people come around with their bad vibes or lower level vibes, you're not being influenced by them, you're influencing them. And so we're energy receivers, we're energy containers, and then we're also transmitters. And so that's where to be an energy master, to really be in deliberate, creative control of our entire life, whether it's our finances, our career, our relationships, our health and well-being, anything we're wanting to create, we have to, number one, watch our words. There are so many words that conscious people that are very well aware of law of attraction. One of them, I'll just give an example. I'm in transformational leadership council with a lot of people that when The Secret was filmed, a lot of those people, it was filmed at a TLC meeting. And I was on a TLC meeting a couple of weeks ago, and one of the people that are leading it were saying, I miss, because of everything that's happened in the world right now, I miss this, I miss that. And he kept talking about how much he missed everything. Well, that word, when we say I miss, it pulls our energy down into lack. And when we do that, the words have creative power. Words literally start the creation. When you think about it, what are thoughts? They're a series of words, right? And you think a thought over and over again, it becomes a belief. It creates an emotion. It then starts the whole entire creation process. So the words that we say, we have to be mindful. Is that literally seeping our energy? Because if you are an energy container, right? If you're just like filled up and you're literally just in complete momentum of having this, powerful energy moving through you, you don't want to have places. It's like having a watering hose and you're trying to water your garden, right? If you got all these holes coming out of your hose, the water is not properly getting to the garden. So your energy is not properly moving with force and momentum into what you're wanting to create. So saying stuff like can't and I should and I miss, these are all words, there's actually like 30 of them, that are just pulled down in lack. You cannot attract what you want from a place of lack. And those are one of the ways. Those are one of the keys to being an energy master, is being able to literally pay attention to the words that you say and how you feel. Yeah. Go ahead.
No. Well, can we back up a second? Because I almost feel like the word is the indicator of where you're headed. It's almost like it's the result. It isn't the entry point, because in order to say the word, you had to have the point of view, or you had to be in alignment with a thought or a feeling about an interpretation about said thing. The
Yes.
word is the indicator to show you that's the path you're on. Because sometimes people will hear what you just said, and say, oh, I can think it, but I shouldn't say it. It's like, but if you're going to say it, it's an indication that you're thinking it. So we want to catch it before you're even thinking it, before that even point of view or frequency is touched upon, right? If I'm thinking something and I want to say it and then I catch myself, it's like when it comes to addiction, people, my issue over time with sort of the addiction recovery community is a constant identification of an addict, right? Versus the reality that we all have addictions. We all repress emotion at some points when it's uncomfortable for us. And that by changing your not using a substance or not doing an action doesn't change the fact that you still want to, or the fact that you're still repressing something, right? We got to go deeper. We got to catch it before that momentum turns it into something.
Absolutely. Yes.
So the words, though, what I love about paying attention to the words is that if you can catch yourself if you're about to say it, and then recognize that it's not just about stuffing it and changing the word, it's about changing the point of view or the focus, and backtracking on whatever that belief is, or whatever that, the frequency that you're on. So how would you tell people? So if key number one is paying attention to your words, is that what we're okay?
Yes.
Okay. And then what would be how do we catch that, or how do we pivot from there?
So when you catch yourself, like, I'll just give an example. I was hearing everybody say, I miss, right? Celebrities to athletes to next door neighbors to my kids. I miss not going to school. I miss not doing this, right? When you stop yourself and say, what do I appreciate, or what am I looking forward to? Right? That's what you're talking about. It's like the whole entire paradigm shifts. I remember having a moment thinking, oh God, I would love to have a date with my husband when all the restaurants were closed down, right? And I caught myself saying, I miss going to restaurants. And I immediately just went, wait, because like you're saying, right? The perspective was that I'm missing out on something. And I literally shifted, was like, I so look forward to those restaurants opening up. When the restaurants open up, where do I want to go? And then it was like this whole creation process of, hey, hun, where would you want to go? What would be the restaurant you really want to go to? And do we want to go just ourselves, or do we want to go with another couple? And then it became just like this, ooh, what am I going to wear? It just became a creation. And all my energy was now flowing into, this is just a pause in time. This is what I'm looking forward to, which is a totally different way of flowing momentum, right? So there's the energy that you have, and then you seep out these energy. And you're right, it is an indication of where you are vibrationally when you're saying words like that. But most people aren't even aware that these words are literally grounded in lack. And that's what's important to understand, is when you're becoming an energy master, is that paying attention to the words that you're saying, that you notice that didn't feel good saying it. And then stopping yourself to shift it, because the word then creates the thought. And yes, it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? You had the thought, and then they had the word. But when you think about it, so words are the first thing, thoughts, right? What are the thoughts that you're thinking about that subject? Because on any subject that we have, whatever your desire is, we've got momentum of thoughts that are happening towards that particular thing. And so if you're thinking a thought that doesn't feel good, how can you shift it so that you're feeling empowered? You're feeling in your creativity. What I go deeper with, and I love that you go deep with your listeners, is that if you have a chronic thought that keeps coming up, and you have to continually do affirmations, and you have to continually shift those thoughts, there is an energetic imprint. Let's talk about that, because that's really important to understand, especially from a law of attraction perspective. I gave you, JJ, we were talking about that example when I was a kid on a horse, right? Anytime you are going along life, we are meant to thrive and to feel good. We're meant to experience positive emotions. And as we're kind of going along life, we got some bad news. Maybe we were feeling joy and we got news that we were betrayed, or someone called us a name, or, we got some news that our parents were getting a divorce, or we had a perception, we were reaching out for love, came up empty-handed. We were perceiving something as, I must not be good enough because I didn't get that person's attention. In that, when we were younger and growing up and getting, conditioned, our energy field is supposed to be open and allowing. But when those things happen and we don't know, we don't have the proper tools to process that energy, to process that emotion, we close down. And when we close down, we create an imprint. And what happens with energy, it's like a caged lion, right? Energy just doesn't go, okay, I'm just going to chill out here until she lets me out. It literally is like a caged lion that spirals around and around and around, and it creates a vortex. That vortex then is what we attract from people, situations, the universe, everything. So we're attracting from these imprints inside of ourselves. Now, the thoughts also come and stem from those particular imprints. So you might be like super excited about something. Like you have this desire, you're all lit up about it, but you keep having a chronic thought about how you can't have it, or you're not cut out for it, or there's a lack thought of, you have to work really hard, and even if you work that hard, you're not going to make it, right? That comes from an imprint, because that's not who you really are. It's not the truth spiritually. It's not the truth of our divine self. So we learned it. We were imprinted with it along the way. So if you find yourself with a chronic thought, find the energetic imprint. Where did you start having that thought? When did that first collapse of energy happen? Because when you can get to that collapse of energy, you could just let the lion out of its cage, literally like letting the energy move out. And then you no longer have an imprint. And now you don't have split energy. You have full flow of energy moving towards the desire that you have.
Well, let's do the full example of you and the horse.
Okay. So when I was about 5, 6 years old, I went to a day camp and I saw a horse for the very first time. And I was so excited. When I think about it, it's like I want to come out of my skin. I was so excited because I'd never seen a horse before. My parents weren't horse people. They weren't outdoor people. I saw horses in picture books, but never saw a real live horse in front of me. And so they also told us that we get to get on top of the horse. And now I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I could just feel it, right? And so they put me at the back of the horse, and they put 2 little girls in front of me. And I am on this horse, and I have never been this high up before. And I am just looking around going, oh my God. And then to look down and to pet the horse's hair, to like feel the sensations, to feel just everything I was feeling. The next thing I know, I'm on the ground and I can't breathe because a dog came by, scared the horse bucked up. I was at the bottom, fell to the ground. 2 little girls came landing on me. So when I got up, I literally, when we say get the wind knocked out of you, I couldn't find even a little bit of breath. So I, in that moment, became terrified. I thought I was going to die. So that imprint, and not knowing how, it was a day camp. I didn't have anybody that loved me, care about me, could come over and comfort me. It was like the camp counselors were like, yeah, you'll be okay, kid, that kind of thing. So it was just this moment of like great excitement, and the way my little brain, not knowing about energy, not knowing about being conscious or anything, everything's black and white, thought, and that excitement of that magnitude leads to death. So because of that imprint, now it wasn't conscious, but every time I started succeeding in my life, at certain points, I would get so excited about something, and then I would sabotage myself because in my mind, which I was not aware of, that level of excitement meant death. Until I was able to find that place where it was like, we might call it the sabotage, like, oh, I'm sabotaging myself, or I'm blocking myself, or I'm limiting myself, or why can't I, it's like the thing we say is, why can't I get past this? Why can't I get past this level of income that I want to make? Or why can't I, succeed in a bigger way? What is blocking me, right? Until I went into that imprint and found that imprint and realized that I have a limitation on the excitement that I can feel in my life. For someone else, it might be joy. For someone else, it might be love. Someone else, it might be freedom, right? It's always the good emotions that get stifled because we associate it with then meaning something bad. So when I was able to go into my belly, into my emotional body, and literally like feel as if that imprint was just releasing, and understand from a conscious perspective that I am designed to be excited. I'm excited. I'm designed to thrive and to feel good and get that level of excitement again. And when I do, that doesn't mean death. That was just an isolated incident. It isn't something that happens for the rest of my life. So I was able to release that imprint, and now I get excited about everything.
Minus the tools that I've already shared on the show, what are some of the ways that you got rid of or, reprogrammed yourself to experience this differently? Was it an awareness? Because obviously, I know for me, doing some work on some core wounds years ago, I'd had people say to me, one person in particular say, when you do this, it doesn't work, like, stop doing this. And I thought, okay, yeah. Like intellectually, I got it. And then when I saw it as a pattern in my life, my whole life, that awareness was so strong. I literally on a dime stopped doing it. And for me, it was just the truth of the awareness of the pattern that had gone on for so long gave me a new perspective. Now, I know that's not going to be for everybody because sometimes, again, our intellect isn't connected necessarily to the emotional part, right? But that's not a full energetic connection necessarily. It was for me, but that awareness sometimes isn't enough. So where do we go? Where do you go when someone needs to change that?
So I'd love to do a process for everybody. And if you're driving right now and you're listening to us, you can still do this because I have done this literally when I've been driving in my car. I've done it at a rock concert. I've got a great story for that. But I mean, I could do it anywhere. So all you have to do is literally, you have your heart is beating, you have your pulse, there's an energy pulsation in your emotions. And when you can just even put your hand over your belly, that's where your emotional body is. Now, because we're not compartmentalized human beings, right? Our emotions create a connection with the thoughts. The thoughts create the story and the justification and all the things that we got going on in our heads, which then activates the emotions even more. So most people are talking about mindset is so important. And yes, it's part of the equation. It's changing the thoughts. But if you still have underneath, like we're talking about, this imprint of just seething in anger or afraid you're in fear or you're sad, that emotion is that gigahertz, if you will. It's like a stronger vibration that's going out to the universe. So the universe is going to give you more of what you're vibrating at a higher level, right? Well, you have to be able to pay attention and let the energy and the emotions go in order to then have the thoughts change. Because go ahead.
No. Before we do this, I want to make some other connections to past conversations on the show about some of this. Okay, so we can connect some of that emotional body, some of that imprint with some of that subconscious beliefs, some of those patterns, those patterns that our brain and our body have cellularly connected right from that experience. So again, that's why it's unconscious or subconscious. You don't know that it's happening because it happened so long ago. Also, when it comes to, because I'm with you on I actually really hate the word mindset. I don't like to use it at all because people just think it's about how they think. And it is about how you think, but it's not disconnected from how you feel. And the point of view that you have and the way that you look at the world isn't just about, for a lot of people, consciously, although you can consciously choosing how to process something. Most people do it by default. Because our conversation about manifestation, what really bugs me about a lot of people who either talk about law of attraction, not saying you and I, but people who make this assumption about law of attraction, they'll say, well, or people who are new and they'll say, well, I would like to manifest. I'm like, honey, you manifest 24/7.
Yeah.
Everything in your life is a manifestation, but it doesn't come in the form of something solid necessarily first. It starts as energy. It starts as a feeling. It starts as a thought. It starts as a sensation. And then it may translate into physical form. But so many people disconnect the idea of manifestation as it has to be in my hands as a physical thing first. But in order for it to be physical, it has to be non-physical first. So we have to clean up. That's why we're having this conversation about five keys to becoming an energy master. Because again, if it's just efforting into a vision board or affirmations, like what you're saying, you can have all the most positive intentions of saying what you think you want and looking at it and in your mind, and visualizing it. But if we're not cleaning up the energy that's literally telling you every day where you're vibrating, what are the beliefs that you have about any given circumstance or situation because of what you're attracting, it's an indicator. And in a way, I'd embrace that. I'd embrace that negative manifestation of whatever that you're getting, because it's information that you can then change and work to your favor. Versus people want to make a black and white and say, well, I'm not a good manifestor because look at all the bad things that happen to me and I didn't want that, and why did that happen to me? This stuff doesn't work. I'm like, okay, calm down. First of all, this is all good news when you recognize you've created it. First step. Second step, then it's the how to. And again, that's why we're having this conversation. So I just wanted to connect that because we've talked a lot on the show about pathways of the brain and changing the neural pathways of the brain and connecting and doing things like EFT and EMDR and energy clearing and clearing inherited emotional DNA and subconscious. These are all words everybody is very familiar with on the show. Awesome. So now taking it and putting it into a new container of imprint and then doing a new kind of clearing. Just wanted to connect all that. So someone says, wait a minute, I heard it like this, and this is something new. Well, yes, and it's sort of like, they represent new words, new perspective, same concepts. Okay. So let's now do the practice of what we're going to do, even if you're driving. And if you don't want to do it while you're driving, I'll come back to this episode and play this when you want to absorb it a little bit more, in case, you don't want to be like looking for where you're supposed to be turning. If you have the GPS on at the same time, probably not the best time to be doing this. Pay attention. All right, take it away, Christy.
Okay, perfect. So you put your hand over your belly, and it takes about 90 seconds to process an emotion, right? So it literally is not getting the mind involved, but putting all of your energy and focus, your concentration in the belly. And if you're feeling whatever it is, let's just say it's fear, and you're feeling that feeling of fear, ask your body. It's like what JJ was saying. You already have the cellular memory, your body, your whole subconscious mind, which is actually your whole subconscious is your whole entire body, the tissues, the muscles, all of it have been imprinted. And so when you ask, this is how you are an energy master. When you're telling your body to bring up in a more intensified way that fear that you're kind of feeling a little bit, and you allow it to go into your belly, what you do is you just feel it. You allow yourself to be one with it, pulsate with it, because then what happens is you're letting the lion out of the cage. You're literally feeling it, accepting it, having this awareness of it. And then once it starts to process out, which is important, is letting it process out. It's kind of like, best way I could describe it is you're a surfer in the ocean and you're waiting for that wave to come. Right? And you're sitting there patiently waiting, and you're just observing. And then all of a sudden the wave comes. Like, you jump on top of that wave and just ride it all the way to the shoreline. Just be with it, stay with it. It might get really intense depending on how long you've had it and what the emotion is, but you just stay with it and just look at it not as, oh, it's fear and it's because of this. Again, don't engage the mind. Just look at it from an energy pulsation perspective. Let it yourself go ride the wave all the way out. And then the next most important point is then bring in the energy. So choose, I want to replace that fear with joy. I want to replace that limitation, that lack with freedom, right? So you get to go to your treasure chest of all things energy, choosing the vibration and frequency that you want to bring in, saying, I'd like to feel rays of joy. And then just imagine that every single cell in your body, including your emotional body, is now being filled up. And that's how you release an imprint.
I want to go back to, because I'm all like sometimes very linear, not always, but I'm like to keep it. So of the 5, where are we with? Are we at 1? Are we at 2?
So number 1 is words. Number 2 is thoughts. Right.
Yeah, okay.
Number 3, we jump. But number 3 for this purpose is emotions, because we've just had that discussion. Number 4 is perspective, right? Perspective, expectation, beliefs, all of that, right? Because once you release the emotions, once you release your emotions and you bring in a higher energy, now that gives you an opportunity to shift your perspective. And what I've been studying for 25 years that literally has just shifted my life and, thousands upon thousands of clients' lives is the law of sufficiency and abundance. And understanding that on one side of the spectrum is lack, which always brings up the negative emotions, right? On the other side of the scale on any given subject is abundance. And in the middle, that tipping point is satisfaction. If that's the place where we can look for the positive aspects, we can literally just start moving into, we're not over the moon excited about something, but at least we can find the satisfaction in this moment related to whatever subject we're talking about, whatever desire that we have. But when we shift from that mindset of lack into the shift of mindset of abundance, now we're in alignment. Now we're flowing, right? We're covering up those holes. Because what happens, and I know JJ, you and I talked about this, about split energy. Split energy is so common with people that are deliberately wanting to create their life, that they're like, I like this and I want to do this, but, right? So there's that but word that we talked about. That's one of the words where it's like, but I don't have what it takes, or there's not enough of that to go around, or I've been waiting for so long. How come he's not showing up yet? Or how come I haven't, that impatience kind of energy, right? It's looking at in your whole entire being, are you flowing all of your energy towards the desire? Are you getting so excited about the desire that you have? You have joyful expectation about it. You're loving the idea of it. You're in the space of having it already, not the absence of it, because that's lack and abundance, right? If you're lack is great. Like lack is awesome to go, you know what? I don't have clients, or I don't have a partner. I don't have that kind of money. Awesome, right? That's great information. Like you were saying, good information to know what I'm lacking, what I'm now aware that I'd like, and then completely shift all of your energy into the fulfillment and the having of it, so that that information can then just be the stepping stones to which you're now flowing your energy, because you can't attract what you want from a place of lack ever. So right. Perspective. Go ahead.
No. Oh, no, I love it. And some other keywords that have been used on the show, just to, it would be pivoting, not focusing on what is, right? And like the contrast has a purpose, and that momentum that we talked about earlier. Like if you've got enough of that negative momentum going, you're not going to turn, like you're not going to stop a car that's going 100 miles an hour in a second. It's going to take a minute to kind of slow it down. So you have all that negative momentum. But when you can realize that you're trying to like drive looking in the rearview mirror and you can't go too far, right? You're like, all you're doing is doing more of what is versus saying, well, where do I want to go? And the benefit of the contrast is the clarity of, well, what do I want instead? And if you can catch yourself saying, yeah, this is what's happening in my life. This is what I don't have. This is what I want. And you go, okay, great. And the point of talking about it anymore would be, I'm going to keep getting what I'm talking about. So why don't I turn in the direction of what I do want and start to visualize and play and have fun? And, to link the 1 and the 4 with the words and frequency of words. It's why I teach people about Rampage of Appreciation, and we do it. People have partners in my membership. We do it at the events. We do it on all our group calls, and I make sure everybody has multiple partners. And I like to prefer and tell them the difference between, at least in my perspective, from Abraham, is like appreciation versus gratitude. Sort of like the mindset piece, right? A lot of times, gratitude has a little murky energy compared to appreciation. It's not as clean as appreciation, because most people say I have gratitude or I'm grateful because. And then it's attached to something negative. So just like we're saying, like they're activating a lack when they're trying to appreciate something, but they're using the word gratitude, which almost means I've overcome this bad thing and I'm trying to go forward, but I'm carrying the energy of this bad thing, versus a cleaner, like I appreciate, not I appreciate because before I was in this really bad place and I'm still pulling that energy forward. So in terms of perspective, state changes, pivoting, ways to what do you tell your people to do when they're in that place of lack and they recognize they're in it and they want to get out of it? What is it that you tell them to do?
Well, that's it. Is number one, focus on what do you want? And so many people, I know you see this, JJ, all the time. It's like, what do you want? Well, I don't want to gain weight. Well, that's not what I asked. What do you want? So many people are not aware. They're so conditioned. Like, I just don't want to be late. Well, I don't want to lose my marriage. It's so important to, again, pay attention to the words that are coming out of your mouth, because that then connects with everything we're talking about, the thoughts, the perspective, the emotions, and then ultimately the actions that you take. So what do you want? Why do you want it? Really get into the why of what you want something. This literally starts shifting the energetic vibration, and then find the essence. So what do you want? Why do you want it? How do you want to feel? Because it's always that vibrational feeling state. I know your audience is very advanced in this, but most people, I know I was raised that way, and most people are still like this. If I want something, I got to go get it, and then I'll feel. And it's the exact opposite of how to manifest. So you feel your way into it, right? And that's where you've just shifted the car. It's going in the total different direction. And you got to keep in that alignment, because otherwise you're like turning left to turn right. That's the split energy, right? It's like you got one area going this way and then you try to go the other way. You're not going to get anywhere. It's like, I would love this, but, right? Oh my gosh, this is exciting, but where the heck is he? And it's that pull.
Well, my favorite quote is, the only reason you want anything you want is because you think you'll feel better when you have it. It's the bottom line. You don't need to have the thing. Yeah. To have the feeling, and you can get to, and in fact, you need the feeling first to even get the thing. But by the time you get the feeling without the thing, you don't need the thing. Right. Right. It's about the feeling. The whole kit and caboodle is you only want what you want because you think you'll feel better when you have it.
And you don't need that now.
And you can do that now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's the only way you're going to get what you want anyway. So you might as well just skip over and just go to the feeling, and then you get what you want, and then you get what you want. Both things happen, right? Cool.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. So that was perspective was 4. So what's number 5?
But no, this is the biggest one. Action. Okay. Now, I know there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, law of attraction, people think that you just sit around and, meditate and no." And a lot of people misinterpreted the secret from that. Action is your job as the physical counterpart to the divine. Yes, we are energy, and all the 4 things that we talked about is all about energy. But then we're the ones that have to take action, and action in a very specific way. Action from a place of giving the fullness of yourself. People say working hard is the key to success. No, because you could work really, really hard, but if your mindset, if your attitude, if the words you're saying go totally against, you can work harder and harder and harder against yourself. It's about aligning yourself first with everything that we talked about, the words, the thoughts, the perspective, the emotions, and then the energy you take with the fullness of your entire being, putting the best you got in that first step, not holding anything back. That's taking action. And when you really think about it, all the energy work that we do, whether it's putting ourselves in meditation or doing vision boards or affirmations or listening to the podcast, you are in action right now. Some action is more go, 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 and you're moving your physical body, but you are actively, you turned on your, podcast, you turned on put on your phone, you went on the internet and looked at YouTube, like however you're ingesting this information right now, however you're consuming it, you put yourself and you took some kind of action to get yourself there in order to receive it. And that's what we have to remember as that important aspect of energy mastery, is that you're going to get impulses. When you're in alignment, you're going to get impulses. And sometimes people hear the impulses and they go, "Oh, I'll do it later," or I'll take care of that later. I'll think about that later. No, you got the impulse. You've been given the information from your divine counterpart that is providing you the avenue through which you've already asked for. You've got the inspiration. Now do it now with fullness of who you are, and move into what it is that you want. That's how that's how you master your own energy.
For a long time, because I have like triple Sag and I've got a Aries, like a lot of fire, right? So I also I'm very action oriented. I take action. I do things. This is kind of, again, so it's always fun to then remember that not everyone's like me. And so when I be in business situations, and a lot of business owners would be telling people to take action, I never liked hearing that. And again, they weren't law of attraction conversations about taking action. They were taking uninspired action. They were taking action and efforting to make up for a lack of connection. They were trying to take the action to get the connection versus doing it the other way around. And so for a long time, especially with certain business owners, I'd be like, that is the absolute wrong advice to so many people, because you're literally in anxiety. You're perpetuating and creating more momentum in a place of lack. And you're not centered, and you're not in alignment, and you're not feeling good about any of this. And you're in desperation, which you're just continuing to keep perpetuating by taking more goddamn action that you don't need to take. Like, so, right. So I did this practice for at least a year. There was a business coach that I kind of followed at the time, and she kind of made fun of law of attraction and what we're talking about, the whole like, oh, you're just going to sit there and meditate, and then business is going to come knocking on your door. And I know, and like, that's not the whole picture. The Secret did not do a good job of explaining frequency and vibration. People literally thought you just make a vision board, do a couple affirmations, and somehow you're magically going to attract something that you are not in alignment with, because that's not where alignment comes from. So, taking that into consideration, I saw this business coach and I thought, I don't really want to follow her anymore, because she's perpetuating all this like misbelief about law of attraction. So I stopped. And then I also realized I was doing the same thing in terms of I was taking action out of a scarcity of feeling like, if I just get to this point, and I know people, it shows up in their life, I just get a relationship, if I just make the money, if I just finish this thing, then I'll feel better. And I recognized and I thought, holy shit, JJ, you're doing that. And it was a big old slap in the face. It was probably 2009. Like, cause I could reiterate law of attraction out my yin yang for every question you could ask me. But then that like looking in the mirror stuff went, haha, you're doing it. You're not living what you're talking about. So I like cut out of a lot of things. And I kind of did meditate. I thought, I am not going to move or take any action unless it's inspired. Like I went the opposite direction. And of course, and then I practiced obviously working on my own frequency. So I trusted that all the impulses and I would act on the impulses, but I wasn't acting if I felt it was coming from lack or from scarcity or from, I have to get here to have this or to feel this or to experience this. So it was it was like a year and a half. I stopped doing newsletters. I stopped looking for new clients. I stopped marketing. I literally sat my butt still. I attended to who I had at the time. And I'm like, you are not doing anything unless you're completely in alignment and inspired. And it worked. But it took me about a year. I'm not saying anyone needs to do this. I'm just giving the example of, when you're a really good doer, and a lot of people are really good doers and they go, but I'm doing things. I'm doing it. Why is it not working? Well, because you've left out the being part that inspires the doing part. So for those of you out there that are like me, you may be overdoing. And for the rest of you who I've let off the hook for a long time, I do know it's time for you to start taking some action. But it's about finding that intuition and finding the download and finding and taking care of this energy field that you have so that you're clear about the message that you're getting. One of the things that you and I talked about on our pre-call was about how you over last 3 years, I believe, started to get stronger downloads and have become a channel for non-physical entities. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about why you think you were ready, the journey you had to go on to be ready to receive that. Because I know a lot of people, again, talking about intuition, they may practice some things, but again, they haven't cleaned up those holes yet in order to get it. So what was your journey on like moving into a space where you could really receive all this non-physical energy and channel it the way you do now?
It was literally leaning in and saying yes when I had that inspired action and taking that action from that place. I mean, it's funny because 25 years ago, when I learned about law of attraction, my teachers were channeled beings. And then about 4 or 5 years in, I learned about Abraham Hicks and gone on lots of cruises and, went to workshops. I mean, so a lot of my biggest teachers have always been channelers. And for me, I channeled every single one of my book. I became an author 20 years ago. Desire Factor is my 7th book. Every single one of them were a channeled situation. I was on a Mediterranean, and this happens all the time. Every time I go on a cruise, I channel a book. I was at 3 o'clock in the morning and my whole family was sleeping. And all of a sudden, like, I get the tap on the shoulder. It's like, get your pen, get your journal. And we're in a cruise ship. My husband's in one room, my child's in another one, the other kids. So the only place I have to go is the bathroom, right? And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, grabbing my pen and going in the hard linoleum floor, putting a bunch of towels on there and just journaling. I mean, literally writing, downloading for hours, and then taking that information and putting it into a book. So I am always in the place of you give and I'll do whatever I need to do as this co-creative partnership that is unique to you and I, right? That uniqueness that is breathing me, right? We all have the divine in us. The divine speaks to JJ very differently than it speaks to me. And it's that unique part of us that is that energy field, is beating our heart, is breathing for us that we don't have to do. And so when I get that and I'm super clear because it feels so expansive and so good, I'll do whatever I need to do. And so, but I do it from the place of inspired action, right? So I just kept leaning into it every time, I would get an assignment. And so one day I was literally driving and I had to pull over because I just saw like this council of light. And I was not on drugs, I promise you, but it was like all of a sudden I'm just seeing this like almost this heavenly picture. And they were speaking to me saying, you need to create a sacred circle of light program. Okay, what is that? I mean, I had to pull over. I'm like, what does that look like? I felt like I was literally talking to God and the disciples. It was like, what is this? And so I did. And I invited some of my clients to come in. And during this one session, the last woman to go, I just kept leaning in. I leaned into several years ago, the fact that my hands started going up when I was on a phone call. And the person on the other line, I was in Montreal, she was in in Oregon. She goes, did you just put your hands around my neck? And I'm like, yeah, I did. My hands won't go down. And I was just leaning into that. I didn't fear it because I'm like, something beautiful is coming out of this. And so I kept doing that. And then it was like at that moment in time where it's like, you need to come out and share that you're an energy healer. Because 20 years ago, when I said I'm a coach, that was super woo-woo, right? It was like, I've been coaching since before coaching was cool. And then it became mainstream. And now here I am going to step out again and go, I'm an energy healer, right? It's like, I got to just put on my big girl pants and just go, this is who I am. And I'm leaning into this. And as soon as I embraced that, then it was like on this call, the woman's talking to me. And it was like when both of my kids talked to me at the same time, I couldn't hear anything. And all of a sudden my consciousness went out. I could have swore I would have betted on my child's life that my body flung over the chair, and it didn't. I was upright. I was speaking. They were speaking through me. My consciousness was off to the side. So I was hearing everything that they said. And ever since then, I've been like Abraham, right? Like Esther channels Abraham. That's what happens. And they're called the council. So now I did a major pivot in my business in the last couple of years where everything's Christy and the council. Everything we're offering is quantum energy mastery, where I teach, they come in and doing healings and being able to see people's imprints because they're holographic. I mean, they just did a call last night where the man says, I reach these pockets where I just feel sad and I'm not sure why I feel sad. There's nothing in my life to feel sad about, but I feel sad. They were able to go, okay, when you were 2.5 years old, you made a decision that you're not important to your mom. And that just like sits there because it's one of those imprints. He like released it and he's like, oh my God, like he feels so free. So it's amazing because it's not just information that comes out, it's healing work, it's alignment work. And so I just think that because it's like we're talking about, JJ, it's like I get the inspired action, I take the action to the fullness, to come out and go, I'm a channeler, it's like that takes a lot of courage.
Well, and I would never have thought I would have stood up and said, I teach law of attraction. 2, I would never have thought in a million years I teach a strengthening intuition course. But when I've seen the work that I've been doing, how it manifests new clarity and new messaging and new like things, like I'll get pictures, I will know something, I'll have, anything from clairsentient to I'll just see it. Like I'll have all the little things and I'm like, and I'll recognize it because now I'm open to it. And I track back to what did I do to get here and what has happened over the last 2 years. It's literally within 2 years that has gotten me here. And I'm just starting. And so I love hearing, just keep leaning in. And that's what I'm doing. So the community will hear soon enough. By the time this episode airs, I will be probably moving because I manifested my house. And that whole story is one of those things. I said to my realtor, who is a friend of mine for 20 years, back in the beginning of this conversation, I said to him, because I wasn't feeling, because he's my friend. So I felt like a little obligation to use him. I love him to death, but we're not on the same page energetically about law of attraction, things like that. So when we started and in this market, he was saying things like, well, he was just a little bit negative Nelly about like reality. Right. And so I was like, I think I need someone who sees possibility, even when you can't see it. And I said this, and I forgot that I said this until like last week. I said to him, I'm the person that gets the thing you tell me I can't get. And I was that bold to say that to him. And then I did it. I was like, oh my God, I said that. And oh my God, I did it. And I keep doing it. Right. And it's so fun to be like, because I didn't see the path. This was one area that I've never bought a house before. I've never done this. Relationships. Yes. Money and business. Yes. Buying a house, a whole new world. And I didn't trust myself enough to really lean into, if you think you can, you can. If you believe you can, you will. And I did believe, but I doubt. I did have doubt, but all the things that I said that I wanted, I got. And anyway, so it's one of those, you have to accept and embrace that receiving mode. And then again, tune yourself to, you don't have to take score, but when you tune yourself to what is working versus what's not working, right? And you keep seeing it, and you keep seeing your evolution, you keep retraining the brain, you keep opening things, you keep healing some of those energy areas where you're leaking out, because now it's just a process. And I see it with clients. You're experiencing, we're all evolving, and this is your next level of evolution and expansion. And we're all doing it. If you're on the path, if you're aware of it, you're paying attention to it, you're embracing it, then you can't help but expand. I mean, it's literally like by default, you will change because you're aware and you're taking steps. So now you talked about channeling all your books, and you have a book coming out right now, and we're in pre-launch for that book. Why don't we talk about when you got that inspired hit to write it, and then what it's about, who's it for, how's it different?
Yes. So I, again, was on a cruise.
You take a lot of cruises, Christy.
I do. Well, I did. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more. So I was on a cruise ship, and I was literally one of those manifestation moments where I sitting there and I just got this channeled experience, because I was in the Mediterranean and I was in Venice, and I had gone there. I had brought my mom and dad, my two sons, and my husband and I on this amazing trip. I paid for everything. And my intention was to go to Venice and to go into any store that I want and to buy whatever purse I want to buy. Because backing up 8 years prior, my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and my mom and dad, we went on a 2-week trip to Italy. And we landed, part of the trip was 3 days in Venice. And it was the first time, JJ, that I had ever gone to Venice and seen stores like this. I was like, I thought I died and went to heaven, because I love like high fashion, and I just love the creativity of the minds of those designers. This, for someone else, that totally might not light you up, but for me, it's like, wow. I don't like it because the Kardashians like it, right? It's like, it's not about that. It's like, I love just high fashion. So when I went there for the first time and I saw Dior and Chanel and Fendi and just Dolce & Gabbana, I was like, Valentino, I was just like, wow. And then the thought of that time, because I had just started my business, right? To go and buy a purse for $2,000-$3,000, that was stupid. It was ridiculous. There's no way I could even justify that. And while I was there in Venice, I said, someday I'm going to come back here. And I'm going to go in whatever store I want to, and I'm going to buy whatever purse I want to buy. And so here I was 8 years later with my mom and my dad, my kids, my husband, and it was my time to go, I'm going to walk in any store and I'm going to buy the purse, whether it's big or small, that really lights me up. And so I went shopping with my husband and had this amazing moment of going into Dolce & Gabbana and, getting it and having lunch and just having this great day. And here I am back on the cruise ship, and I'm like, wow, who I became in the process of that intention and that manifestation in that 8 years. Wow. Like what I've done to start my business from nothing and have it be a multi-million-dollar business. And be able to take my parents on this amazing trip. It was just this moment of that. And then the mind kicked in and said, that's so materialistic. And I went, wait, how is that materialistic? Because I desire for something material. And that's when it started downloading through me, is that we get these desires that are birthed within us, whether it is to create a company or buy a Dolce & Gabbana bag. It doesn't matter what the desire is, as long as it's not something because I'm trying to be like other people, I'm trying to get someone to like me, the place of lack that we've been talking about, trying to compete with other people because I don't feel like I'm not enough, so I got to prove myself, or, whatever those reasons are, because I want to hurt or harm somebody else. When you're in alignment and you just get lit up by something, I don't care if it's a golf club, a trip to Hawaii, or a bag, right? That desire comes from a higher place. And look at who I became because of that desire. So everything here in this material world is spiritual, because everything is energy. That Dolce & Gabbana bag is energy. And it's not only just the bag itself that's energy, who I became in the process of attaining it. That's what the divine is all about. I get to carry the bag. So the personality gets to get the benefit of manifesting the stuff or the things or the trips, but it's the divine, like we were talking about, the inevitability of the expansion of it. And so we cannot have split energy on our desires, because it's who we literally become. And so the desire factor brings through the reader through the 7 principles of literally receiving that desire to the attainability of that desire. Universal principles, of course, they're all built on each other. So it's kind of like a combination lock, where a lot of people, if you get it out of, if you got 2, 24, 36 and you go 36, 2, you're not opening up that lock. And a lot of times it's the exact process of flowing the energy using these principles, which is really the key. And so this is the first book. I'm super excited about it because this is the first book that I've channeled with the council. Because I've always channeled my books. I didn't know who I was channeling. And now I know who it is. And the council has quotes in every single one of the books. So you're asking who it's for. It's for anybody that wants to literally become masterful of their desires, to receive that idea, to feel so empowered and so in faith that you are in a co-creative partnership, that the divine that's breathing you has all the steps. All you have to do is take the first step with full action. Of course, align yourself like we've been talking about. And so it's really exciting. I'm very proud of it.
Well, congratulations. When is it officially launched? I know you're in pre-launch right now.
April 21st.
April 21st. So it is not April 21st yet. Everyone go to thedesirefactor.com for pre-launch, right? They can pre-order the book.
Yes, and you'll get about $900 worth of bonuses. So immediately when you buy the book, like today, as a matter of fact, you'll get 3 processes that are from the council. One of them is a hologram meditation, talk about creativity and literally like releasing imprints and putting yourself in the place of what you want to create. And another one's a peace meditation. Another one's a success meditation. They're amazing. They're great processes. And then when the book comes out in May, we actually do a 4-week live course with the council. And so it's a $900 package for a less than $15 book.
Awesome. Everyone go to thedesirefactor.com. The link will also be in the show notes to get the pre-ordered book and your bonuses. Now, the bonuses will go away when the book is launched?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so they have until the 20th to get it?
Yep, exactly, 20th.
All right. So by April 20th, you have to get it in order to get your bonuses. Everyone go to thedesirefactor.com. Any last inspired words of wisdom, Christy, to the community listening, both, from everywhere?
Yes, JJ, I just want to acknowledge you because the level of conversation, I just love it because there's a lot of people that are swimming in the shallow end and, we all need to swim in the shallow end. We need to start somewhere. You need to learn 1 + 1 = 2 before you can learn, 2 + 2 = 4, right? I mean, we all have to start somewhere. But I love the fact that you have such a depth of knowledge and that the way you are continuing that depth of conversation about vibration, that it's not just looking at a vision board, there's so much more to it. And I appreciate that. So I just want to really acknowledge you and for all of your listeners that are following you and that are in this conversation. I'm just so grateful. You are definitely my peeps. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is ultimately we want to spread the word, right? We'd love more people to sort of wake up and access that consciousness because everyone benefits when we can all sort of rise to that understanding that we're energy and that no one else can really affect you as much as you affect you. So, right, when we take our power back, we also inspire others. And I know, my partner has said to me, you just keep being the example because it's through you. And you were talking about how you built your business and how, and that what you had to become to attract and to attain what you did. My boyfriend, his mindset was always, and his belief was you have to work really hard to attain wealth or to get to the next level. And he's watched me literally, the more money I make, the less I work. And he goes, right. And then the happier I am, the more stuff just sort of works out. And he's like, you just keep being the example. Because you have redefined for me what that means. It's not working harder, it's working smarter, but it's also from an elevated place of connection, alignment, purpose, right? The whole kit and caboodle. It's not separate. It's all connected. All connected. So I appreciate the acknowledgement. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show. TheDesireFactor.com, everybody. Today is not April 20th yet until it is. So make sure that you go to TheDesireFactor.com. If it's before April 21st, get the pre-order book and your bonuses. And if it's after April 21st, go buy the book anyway. Go to TheDesireFactor.com or by that point, Amazon or Barnes & Noble, wherever you get it. So after April 21st, 2021, don't miss out on the book. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you so much, JJ.